Well, hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Talk It Over. My name's Sean Horn. I'm with Awesome Articulators in Greenville, Texas. And today on the very first issue of Talk It Over is my esteemed guest, Miss Monnica Rose. She has quite a list of accomplishments, a previous District 50 governor. She's been region advisor for 2 terms between 2015 and 2017, and she is a 3-time DTM and so much more. Miss Monnica, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Sean. And wow, thank you for that excellent introduction.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So it's just be like a casual back and forth to kind of like get your take on things. Toastmasters is obviously a huge organization that is very familiar to a lot of people, but there's a lot of people like me who are new to it. So we'll just kind of talk about your experiences in it. And with that, what actually led you to Toastmasters?
I had a friend who was a part of Toastmasters and would often invite me to meetings. I went to a few meetings, but work got in the way and got busy. And actually, in reflection, looking back, they never asked me to join the club. So I just thought at my leisure, I would go and visit. Then a few years later, another friend of mine, a fellow engineer, mentioned to me that Monica, Toastmasters can help you. I want to invite you to this meeting. And I thought it was 2 different groups because the first location was in a different building on campus. And the second time I went, I learned a little bit more. And because of her encouragement, I joined. And I'm so glad I did. Once I
Awesome.
got in as an engineer, I am usually the introvert in the group. So I know that becoming a part of the organization, I could see where it was beneficial for me. And I'm glad she encouraged me to do that.
Oh, that's very cool. You know, from knowing you the little bit that I have, I would never guess that you were an introvert. So
Well, see, that's the beauty of Toastmasters and how I've grown from those humble days 14 years ago.
So 14 years, you've accomplished a lot in those 14 years. And from what I hear from talking to other members of different clubs and our own club, that you've climbed that ladder quicker than most. So maybe what was like your drive and motivation to get to the finish line so quickly and then to restart and do it all over again? What was going on in your head there?
Ooh. Well, in Toastmasters, I've learned a lot, and having to do the DTM, having the opportunity to earn 3 DTMs has been an accomplishment. Every time was always a different time. Every icebreaker in the competent communicator manuals that I've achieved was always something different. Once I started in February of 2006. By July, I was a club officer, and someone suggested that I step outside of the club environment. And I heard it multiple times, so I figured that it might be important that I try to do that. I'm a lifelong learner, and I've known that anytime I say yes to something, I always learn at least one additional thing that I hadn't learned before. Well, this happened to be a whirlwind of knowledge that helped me to go from being shy and more of an introvert to someone who's spoken to a large number of audience members and more international audience members, more than just my home club, more than just in my district as a district director. Back then it was district governor. But I knew that every time I would push myself to give that next speech, it always had me a little uncomfortable, but yet I knew that I had so many in the audience that were cheering for me to be successful. That was a driving factor. Having to step outside of the club and meet more like-minded people who were looking to develop themselves as better communicators, I felt I was in my own little tribe there, that I could talk to someone that we shared the same common fears of getting up to give that speech, and know that I was in a safe environment. Because of the mission of Toastmasters, it is something that I knew that I could continue to learn. And I had a team of mentors who were always tapping me on the shoulder to say, have you thought about that next step? They were always looking to see, and through my excitement of the organization, I was able to take those steps easily.
Wow, that's pretty good. So when you're going through 3 different DTMs, obviously you mentioned that each one presents unique challenges and things of that nature. Can you think back to one speech or one instance that was the most challenging, and how you are better for passing that challenge?
That's an excellent question. Actually, I have two speeches that remind me of the feedback and why it was so important, but I'll just share one example right now. One was the manual was an advanced manual on accepting an award or presenting an award. This speech was the acceptance of an award. And who would think that a speech that was 2 to 3 minutes that I would get so much solid feedback? In the speech, the manual gives you the requirements of the speech and then gives you a little glimpse of what the evaluator will evaluate you on. So in my delivery, I thanked everyone. Thank you for this, and thank you for that, and thank you for the person who helped me. My evaluator came back at the appropriate time in the meeting, and she recited how many times I said thank you. And it was overwhelmingly annoying. And because I'm the speaker, I could not hear all of this. So it just went on like blah, 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 blah. What I did learn is from her evaluation, where she did not sugarcoat anything. She said, this is how you think. You thank the people or anyone who's involved with your success. Because in Toastmasters, we don't do it alone. In receiving an award, it's obvious that most of the time you don't do it alone. You do it with a team of people. So it was a solid reminder to me that next time, and I've used this example every time I thank someone, I thank them for being a part of the success of what is a combination, a conglomeration of all of the efforts of the entire team put together. And that has stayed with me for a very long time. Thank you
Wow,
for that question.
that's really cool. So how many people was that speech in front of?
That was in a room of about 25 people.
Man, I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube talking in different places. Um, maybe I can link some of those on our website page, but it certainly is a different environment every time you talk. And one of the things I like about well, Toastmasters and also being an instructor and things like that is trying to find that bridge to connect to people. And I haven't yet had the opportunity to try to face, more than 20 people in one room. But just the thought of that's kind of intimidating. So hopefully through my own Toastmasters journey, I'll get that opportunity with upcoming
Yes, you
contests and
will.
things like that. So confidence outside of work, you'd say that's something Toastmasters gave you, or confidence outside of the club kind of helped you talk more at work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is something I want to describe as being more assertive, being a shy introvert, transitioning and using those skills that we learn in Toastmasters has helped me to be more assertive. It also requires a bit of confidence, and going through the Toastmaster program and really paying attention to the projects, learning to take the feedback and not take it personal, but look at it as an opportunity for you to grow, has helped me build that confidence and put that in with being more assertive. I am a leader in different aspects outside of Toastmasters and outside of the organization at work that has been pivotal in me bringing that confidence in. And I could really see the benefits of Toastmasters as I assumed the role of Vice President of Programs for Women of Visionary Influence. And ultimately, I was asked to serve in the Chief Operating Officer position for the same organization. I was asked to be a board member 2 years ago, invited on to the board, and right away, I was able to go to work because of the skills that I learned in Toastmasters. I was involved in event planning. I was involved in leading a meeting and delegating responsibility and just overall overseeing the entire activity. With that, had I not had the Toastmaster experience, I wouldn't have had the confidence to say, I'm able to handle a meeting. I'm able to conduct a meeting on time, which in our Toastmasters meetings, we know everything starts on time and finishes on time. how to round a conversation so everyone is included. Oh, we can go on with a plethora of things and skills that I've learned in Toastmasters that has easily served me well being a leader outside of that. But it all starts with the confidence within. And that's where we start at the very first icebreaker of standing in front of a crowd of people and saying to ourselves that we know the audience is there to help us be successful. Teamed with all of the mentors that I want to surround myself with, definitely we in leadership don't do anything alone. We have a team of mentors that support us for the different aspects that we find as our opportunities to grow. Close the gaps. That will help round you out as a better leader. And that's how I've planned and modeled how I've done my professional development. It's all on my own with a team of help. So you have to look inside, and that's one of the things that I've done, looked inside to see where I feel my gaps are. And then my mentors have helped me identify a few other things that I didn't know.
That's cool. That's really cool. One thing I will say to agree with that is Toastmasters really it kind of empowers me to be something or be myself, something I wouldn't necessarily go to. Let me see how to phrase this right. I'll probably edit this out, but Toastmasters definitely gives me the freedom to express myself and the comfortability to do so in a judgment-free zone that I normally probably would not approach with just coworkers or things like that. But the confidence I get from doing so successfully at Toastmasters bleeds into my other life, and it gives me more of a confident persona in my everyday activities. Now, speaking of confidence, I did take a little speech class in college, and I have been an instructor for about 6 years now. So talking in front of people is kind of the norm, you know. I'm just not conveying technical data when I do it at Toastmasters. I'm more being myself, being more relaxed, and being more fun. But when it came time for me to finally give my speech, I had to find a new comfort zone because of COVID-19, and now we're just talking to our webcams. What kind of changes do you see long-term for Toastmasters when it comes to doing all these virtual meetings, missing out on the opportunity to travel and network and give speeches at competitions and things like that when we're all just now sitting in our chairs looking at our computer screens?
I think this is an excellent opportunity to learn new skill that we would not have realized had we still been in the four walls and a ceiling environment. This is an online environment now and gives us that opportunity. It's a little bit different. This is our normal, but look at all of the things that we can learn. Now, today we're utilizing the Zoom platform. There's GoToMeeting. There's other platforms that allow us to have those online meetings. Microsoft Teams has been another platform that I have been able to learn additional skills on. But knowing that when change happens, we need to move quickly with change. And to learn a few additional skills that we would have never had the opportunity is so paramount, because now I can take from the Zoom platform the ability to create breakout rooms. I can create a poll to poll the audience while I'm asking questions or delivering a presentation that I might take a little bit longer to accomplish this in a large room or speaking to a very large audience that I've had the opportunity to speak to. We might not be able to get that kind of clarity on what our audience is. Toastmasters tells us to know your audience. So how do we do that? By asking questions. So I learned how to do that by taking those polls. I also have been able to create breakout rooms and work with another facilitator in particular sessions and learn that there's a way to communicate with our members as we separate them into breakout rooms. Now, the breakout rooms are created to have an additional discussion while still maintaining one large meeting. And I can reflect back on one of the presentations that I've presented at another district in our Toastmaster region, where there was an exercise where I wanted to glean 3 different perspectives from the group. Had I been on Zoom, I can move these 3 groups of people to their independent rooms, give them 3 independent discussion points to bring back answers So when the group got back together, we could facilitate learning, and everyone can learn from the best practices based on these 3 different questions. They wouldn't be annoyed by the additional sound in the room, whereas they would have a private setting to understand that. So look at all of the things that we can still take from the meeting room to the computer. And if the computer is the way we have to communicate, we all want to learn so that we cannot skip a beat and be on the same path that everyone is on. Looking in the future on how I think Toastmasters might move in this way that we're conducting meetings right now, I think that this is a wide arena for additional opportunities for our organization just to continue to grow. I know that there are some outlying regions where travel and because of geographic distances, our members have not been able to make the meetings or be a part of the meetings that were in the 4 walls and a roof type environment. But this is a way that now we can connect the world. Worldwide, our members can have this opportunity. Now, once there's no more social distancing, I do feel that there will be an opportunity to have those face-to-face meetings, and then some hybrid form of meetings where some members are face-to-face and some are remote. But definitely, we have increased the footprint of our online community.
Man, you bring up an excellent point there about being able to jump in anywhere in the world. I wonder if any of the clubs out in Australia would let me sit in on a meeting. That'd be pretty cool, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure they do things a little different everywhere. So being able to seamlessly travel to Australia is an exciting opportunity, or wherever, you know?
Absolutely.
So let's,
There's one point that it's, pardon the interruption, but there's one point that I want to bring up with that. Once you're a Toastmaster member and you continue to pay your dues, you are free to move about the world. You can visit any club at any time. There's a link on the Toastmasters International website that clubs have been posting their meeting Zoom locations or whatever platform, however they're meeting. There's a link that you can go to. Any member can go to that and visit a club. All you do is request a visit, and if you get the connection, then you're already there. So feel free to do that.
yeah, I think I will look into that. That's an awesome idea for anybody that wants to see how they run a meeting in England or see how they run a meeting, because there's districts all over. I was looking at that map.
Yeah, I've joined one of those clubs in London. I went to one of their meetings, and I also had a chance to go to a meeting in Turkey.
Oh man, that's exciting. That is exciting.
Yep.
So I want to just transition a little bit to just the basic speech writing, because that's one of the things that people starting out like myself and even very experienced people like yourself have to do pretty regularly. So just walk me through the process of how Monnica Rose researches, designs, develops, and delivers a speech. Say it's a 5 to 7 minute speech.
Okay, 5 to 7 minutes. If the choice is mine to select the topic, then I look to see what's relevant and how I can match the subject content to the project. If it's a particular story that I have a personal story on, I am more engaged with that one versus one that I have to develop additional content. Usually it's those particular speeches where if you have a personal story that you could relate to sharing 3 points, 3 points. If you have the personal story, it's easier to tell that story. You can have the passion, and really you can close the time it takes to develop a speech by just the content that you already have that you can bring into the delivery. What you want to do is look at your opening. That's your first thing. And then your closing. How do you want to start? What do you want to grab the audience with? And then look at how your closing will say, here's my message, and then give them an audience challenge. Find out where you're going. And then once you have those 2 bookends, then you put the meat in. And remember, it's an easy way people can remember the 3 points. 5 points will take you too much time to complete in a 5 to 7 minute speech. But I will usually look at my opening and closing and practice those very well. And then when I get to the middle part of my 3 points, I'll usually just bulletize what those 3 points are, share what the purpose is for each one of the points, and then attach a story. So opening, make a point, tell a story. Make a point, tell a story. Make that final point something still germane to the subject, or put a twist on it and make it a little humorous. And then have that closing that reiterates the 3 points that I just shared, and then a closing that encourages the audience to take a next step or to even investigate something. If I offered a discussion on how to garden tomatoes, then they might be inspired to go and plant tomatoes and just receive the beauty of the product that you have to share. That's how I would do it. Now for research, if I had to research a new topic that I wasn't particularly comfortable with, I would still ask the person, if someone asked me to give a presentation at an open house, I would take a look to see what audience they're trying to grab, or to try to talk to or speak about the Toastmasters program, or what are their particular goals. Or if it was in a district outside of my home district 50, I would look to see what needs does the members have for what are their particular needs. And that way I know what subject that I can help on. So if it's club building or club member retention, then I can hone my speech based on what their needs are. Then I'll do a little bit more research. Because I'm an engineer, I love to investigate. I love to problem solve. So I look at strategically what those particular components their district might be doing, or what this particular group might need to help them succeed and move through whatever their needs are. So I'll just do a little investigation.
Okay, that's kind of ties me to my my pathway of humorous engagement, and kind of like needing to know something about the audience before I can just go in there and expect everything to work, you know? Because I do joke a lot when I talk. You've seen it. So it's you don't want to say something that you think is funny that other people might find, you know, offensive or anything like that. Especially in a professional environment that is Toastmasters. So trying to find that common ground can be difficult. And depending on where I'm giving a speech would definitely affect the material. So one of my things that I struggle with when giving a speech is my timing, because I have it written out on paper. Usually, well, in the past, I've written out a full speech and reread it and reread it and reread it and timed it and reread it until I hit 7 minutes exactly. And then when I do it at the meeting, I find myself stalling because I feel like I'm not going to hit enough time. And then before I'm done with my first point, the green light's coming on. And now I'm panicked, so I can just rush through my last 2 points and maybe not give them the full attention that I had intended. So I kind of feel like my speech gets robbed because of that. And then the second problem that I have is learning from that mistake. I tried to do just bullet points where I would just write, okay, I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to let my gift of gab just carry me and try to fill in the blanks with some off the cuff stuff. But then I just get lost like a deer in the headlights staring at my webcam, and I have trouble making time that way. So I guess perfection just comes with practice, and I will get there, but I appreciate you sharing insight on how you prepare a speech.
I have a point to add based on your comments that you just mentioned.
Okay.
Usually on the points where if you do a bullet point for each item and then you share your story, try to time it. But if you don't time, if you look to see by the time you got to your first point, what you want to do is then talk about, initially you want to say in your opening, whatever your opening is, and then before you start that first point, you share, these are the 3 points I'd love to discuss with you today. So the membership, the audience knows the 3 points that you'll cover, and then you'll go into your first point. If you see that you're at the green light by the time that you're at your first point, then you want to say, now we've discussed already the first point, and I remember we mentioned that we have 2 additional points to talk about, but I really wanted to I just want to focus more just on the first point and then give a little bit more on the second point. And then you can say, and I'll leave that third point for my next speech.
Oh,
So kind of
nice.
give them like a cliffhanger in a way to speak, and that'll help you just kind of round that out. I just wanted to get your appetite wet for this subject, but you know there's more to come. And we'll do that in the next speech. And you can wrap up that way, do your closing, and still meet your time frame. Another thing that sometimes members get hung on in speech writing is the idea that they have to memorize their speech. And that's not what speech giving is all about, because when you deliver a speech, and this happens in face-to-face, but if you look on if you're on Zoom, try to open up your platform to where you can see all the members. That's what I do. I feed off the audience. So if you get to a point where you're telling your story, you should be that engaged to where it should flow nicely. And if someone nods their head, you can interject and say, yes, I see you resonate with that the moon is green and you just love it. And I see I have a friend in the audience because I think the moon is green and I think it's cool. You can add that extra humor there, but then wrap back up and redirect back into your conversation. So you're still telling, you're still sharing, you should be relaxed and you should not have to memorize. But if you do want to memorize some point of it, don't be married to what you're supposed to memorize. Have a general idea of the point you want to make during your speech and just have a conversation. Be relaxed. Not worry about having to hit all the articles and the particular word and how you want to describe something. Or if you miss something out of order, just reverse the order in your mind. The audience never knows.
That's
If you give
solid advice.
yourself away, excuse me, or you pause, right, they'll know that you're memorizing, but they'll never know until you say, I'm sorry, and then start over. So don't resist it. Just let it flow.
That's solid, because I'll push through, and then a week or so later, someone will be like, "Man, you remember when you gave that one speech? That really stuck with me." And I'll say, "I don't even remember what I was talking about as soon as my speech is over, because I'm so nervous in the moment that I just kind of like go on autopilot."
Right.
So, and then to further reiterate what you said about trying to remember everything, then you just start feeling like a failure when you forget something. That's a quick way to spiral downhill when you're giving a speech, and then it takes forever for the green light to come on. Well, listen, I thank you for sitting down with me today. Is there anything you want to throw out on your own, or any advice you want to give to the hopefully millions that will watch this video?
The best piece of advice is something that someone shared with me that has stayed with me forever, is that we are all here. We all started at the same point in Toastmasters, either being so afraid to speak in front of a crowd, because I remember my first moments where my hands would just shake uncontrollably, to the point now where if I know that I need some help on a particular theme, because I have so many thoughts that might go through my head, I can reach out to a few friends and say, hey, give me a theme on this particular thing. And oh yeah, and then it'll jog my memory. Know that from your very beginning to wherever you are now, just do it one speech at a time. Remember our Toastmaster promise to prepare and be our best no matter what. But if all else fails, don't beat up on ourselves, because we know that there are members, so many members that are in the audience that are cheering for us to succeed and to be successful. If you want to do better, plan better, be prepared, and just follow the feedback. If you get feedback, it should be encouraging and uplifting. Know that the feedback is there to help you grow, to help us all grow. Because when we hear feedback in a meeting, we learn from that feedback as well. Attend meetings regularly. If you miss a few meetings, you could miss the camaraderie, the networking, the fun and excitement that happens in our meetings with having multiple themes, different different themes throughout the meeting. These are all to help us engage as members. I would not trade anything from my journey in Toastmasters. I have learned and grown, and I am a more confident communicator, a stronger leader. I can see it in every aspect of my life. Money well spent.
Well, you always do seem to inspire everyone around you, and you certainly push people to be better. And at 3 DTMs, it seems like your journey doesn't have an end, or at least not one in sight.
Not anytime soon.
So thank you again for sitting down with me, and I'll see you Tuesday.
Awesome.